It is Wednesday, 21st day of May 2025. Welcome to the Lord Aboga TV newspaper review. Straight away we go on to the Standard, whereby the main headline reads, Ruto's seal grab. It is quite unfortunate that President William Samoei Ruto, through a silent executive order, then it was passed through parliament, that the official government seal is now not domiciled at the Attorney General's office, but instead it is domiciled at the State House, being held by the Chief of Public Service in person, that is Bwana Felix Kosgei. That is quite unfortunate, because now the Attorney General's office is the one that legally has the mandate to advise the state and to advise the president on legal issues. Now, what does Felix Kosgei know about legality of this and that issue that is supposed to take place and is supposed to be undertaken by the state? Now that is where it calls by, we the people of Kenya now start believing what former Attorney General J.B. Muturi used to say when the president used to coerce him to sign and append the government seal on some documents without going through them. It is quite unfortunate. Now the office of the Attorney General is now useless office, because there is nothing that is going to undertake if the government seal is not in the office of the Attorney General's possession. What is the purpose of the office of the Attorney General? Because now the president will just be conducting his deals at the State House and stamping the government seal onto it. Quite unfortunate. The Standard writes, a quietly passed law transferring the public seal, a symbol of government authority, from the Attorney General's office to the President's Chief of Staff, may have troubling implications. Legal experts now fear that giving the President unchecked control over such a powerful instrument could enable deals bypassing the Attorney General and other key institutions, undermining the national principle of power sharing among branches of government. That is an unfortunate state of affairs. And this thing was done secretly till few days ago, whereby the government spokesman, that is Isaac Mwaura, was tasked by a tough question from a journalist, whereby he was just murmuring, listening to what the government spokesman had to say when he was asked if the Attorney General still holds the government seal.
Where is the government seal right now?
When you look at the law is very clear. This seal is under the head of public service. That is the law. It was passed recently.
So, Dr. that is to say the AG doesn't hold the government seal
The
anymore.
new law is that the head of public service is the one who has the public seal.
But was it communicated to Kenyans? Are the citizens aware that the government seal left the AG's office to head of public service?
Ronnie Reagan, that is a process that went through parliament.
You've seen for yourself. You've seen how he was tensed answering that question. This is what J.B. Muturi had to say on the issue. If documents can be signed and bear the public seal without AG's legal advice, that is a serious issue. I'm sure they are avoiding accountability by transferring matters to the head of public service office, where they can use them however they want, since there is no check. The public seal is a symbol, like a stamp used to authenticate official documents to represent a government. It is a way to show that a document is real and legitimate, usually affixed to important papers like decrees and contracts. In Kenya, the public seal is one of the national symbols, along with the flag, anthem, and coat of arms. A coat of arms is a symbol display of visual emblems used to identify a country or organization. The emblems, often featuring colors, animals, and geometric shapes, are unique and historically significant, representing the entity they belong to. And some other time, Raila Amolo Odinga, before he joined the broad-based government, used to complain. And at one time, the Standard wrote unto its headline, Ruto amasses power. Quite unfortunate that our country is in that state today. Then still on the standard, there is 2027 general elections at stake. IEBC warns. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has told the Apex Court that failing to carry out the constitutional exercise of redrawing electoral boundaries before the next elections will render the ballot invalid. That is a quite unfortunate state of affairs there. And I think those Kenyans who are still going to court so that the IEBC cannot be constituted, they should just leave it so that we constitute IEBC and move on with the process of preparation for the 2027 general elections. No one should be worried that elections are going to be stolen. Gen Zs promised the people of Kenya that they are going to guard and take care of elections credibility. So no one should be worried. Let the IEBC come in place. Even if when the president wants to choose Farouk or Sudi at IEBC helm, let it just be that way. Kenya Gen Zs promised us that they are going to take care of the 2027 elections so that no one can steal those elections. I think people who have taken the IEBC again to court, please just withdraw the cases. Let the IEBC be constituted so that we can move on and we can move forward as a country. Straight away, we move on to the Daily Nation, whereby the main headline reads, Nurses no one wants. The Daily Nation goes ahead and writes, they put their lives on the line to help patients in isolation wards likened to death chambers during COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. 5 years later, the medics are enduring months without pay, the life of penury, plunging souls into depression and suicide. Why have authorities been so mean to them? That is quite unfortunate when President William Samoei Ruto keep on speaking day and night that SHA is going to change the livelihoods of Kenyans. How is SHA going to change the livelihoods of Kenyans when medics who are mandated to take care of patients are not treated and motivated accordingly? That is something that is not going to be achieved if medics are not well taken care of. As you can see, the Daily Nation has highlighted some of the nurses who committed suicide. We can see there is Miriam Washera, a nurse from Murang'a County. We can see David Singili, a clinical officer from Mombasa County. We can see Jacqueline Deritu, a clinical officer from Nakuru County. We can see Emmanuel Kilui, a nurse from Bungoma County. We can see Wanjira Kariuki, a clinical officer from Kirinyaga County. We can see Dennis Nyabuto, medical laboratory officer from Marsabit. We can see Bernard Kadima, medical laboratory officer from Busia County. We can see Collins H. Otieno, medical officer intern Kiambu County. We can see Immaculate Njoki, nurse from Murang'a County. We can see Ronald Maiyo, nurse from Elgeyo Marakwet. We can see Apusa Ochieng, nurse from Migori County. That is quite a big number of medics who are committing suicide just from depression-related cases, from the way they are being treated badly by the employer. That is quite unfortunate, and it is high time that the government of Kenya steps in place and sort the issue of medics if they are indeed serious with healthcare in our Republic, Kenya. Again, there we see another sub-headline out of the Daily Nation, outrage as public school run on empty. But the most unfortunate part of it is that when the finance cabinet secretary, that is John Badi, appears on a TV interview or in Senate, he claims that he has already remitted capitation to schools. This is what the Daily Nation writes. Institutions forced to scale down operations after government failed to wire capitation money. Day high schools most affected by cash crunch as they fully rely on government funding. Why is the government not remitting capitation to schools? Why? Why? You know, some things are just but so saddening. The government is not in a position to issue capitation to schools. The very government is in a position to day in, day out renovate State House with the billions of shillings, but they are not in a position to remit capitation monies to schools. That is so unfortunate. How do government then expect these schools to run? So unfortunate. So unfortunate. And we thought the ODM expert in the finance sector would handle this. But unfortunately, he's now dancing unto the tune of the Kenya Kwanza-led administration. The Daily Nation writes 70% of learners who attend day secondary schools that are struggling the most. Up to that, so saddening. We don't have much onto our newspaper reviews. For this and many more, subscribe onto our YouTube channel at Lord Aboga TV. Remember to press the notification bell so that when you come up with this interesting political and governance content, YouTube will automatically notify you. Till next time, goodbye.